The camera cuts to pure chaos. Smoke, flames, screaming. The sound design is everything. Sirens wailing in the distance, the deafening crackle of fire, the shattering of glass. We're inside Victor Ashford's North Sydney mansion. November. An upscale cocktail party happening in the adjacent rooms. Waitstaff scattered, guests running. And then, boom. An explosion from the study tears through the architecture. The whole north wing erupts. Orange flames consume everything. But here's where it gets different. In the middle of this inferno, a single figure stands frozen, watching. Isla Thorne, 23 years old, a maid, her uniform, pristine moments ago, now dusted with ash. Her hands trembling. Everyone is running away from the fire. She is staring directly into it. "No," she whispers. "No, no, no." She doesn't run. She doesn't scream. She does the only thing that makes sense to someone whose entire life just became impossible to ignore. She runs straight toward the flames. The smoke inside the study is so thick you can't see 10 feet. Heat radiates like a physical force. It scorches her skin through the fabric. Ash fills her lungs. Debris blocks the doorway. A fallen beam, shattered glass, pieces of the ceiling collapsed onto the Italian marble floor. Ella pushes through it all. Her eyes are watering so badly she can barely see. And then, she finds him. Victor Ashford is on the ground, unconscious. His suit jacket is burning. His left arm is pinned under a piece of marble that must weigh 300 pounds. There's blood on his face. His breathing is shallow. If she doesn't move him in the next 30 seconds, he dies here. And despite everything, despite the fact that she came to this mansion to investigate him, to find answers he's been hiding from her, to uncover the truth about her father, she realizes she cannot let this man die. "Stay with me," she says, even though he can't hear her, even though she's talking to an unconscious person, even though her own life is in danger. "Stay with me, please." She grabs his shoulders and pulls. Nothing. He doesn't move. The beam is too heavy. The marble too solid. She pulls again, harder. A piece of burning wood falls from above, narrowly missing her head. The flames are spreading. The heat is unbearable. Sweat is pouring down her face, mixing with tears and ash. She wedges her feet against the base of the marble and pulls with everything she has. Finally, it shifts. The weight releases. Victor moves. Suddenly, he's dragging behind her and she's half running, half crawling through the smoke-filled corridor. Behind them, the fire is spreading faster. The study is completely consumed now, orange and red and black. The heat is so intense, it feels like the entire world is burning. She finds the servant's staircase. Her muscles are screaming. Her lungs are burning. The smoke is so thick that breathing feels like inhaling broken glass. But she keeps going, down, deeper. The stairs are becoming blocked. More debris, more fallen structures. She has to navigate around obstacles while keeping Victor from sliding down the steps. Once she stumbles. For a moment, both of them are falling together, but she catches herself on the banister. They reach the kitchen. The chaos is still happening above them, but down here it's just cold stone and the distant sounds of sirens. Isla doesn't stop. She drags Victor through the service exit. The cold November air hits her like a shock. It's jarring, disorienting, like surfacing from deep underwater. Outside. They're outside. She collapses next to him on the gravel drive, gasping, hyperventilating. Her lungs are raw. Her hands are bleeding from where she gripped the debris. Her entire body is shaking. Behind her, the mansion is a glowing inferno. The fire is visible from probably half of Sydney. Paramedics are running toward them. Someone is shouting. Someone else is crying. The world is chaos and noise and sirens. Isla looks down at Victor. His eyes are still closed. There's blood on his face, but his chest is moving. He's breathing. She saved him. And as the paramedics are loading Victor onto a stretcher, Isla realizes something that terrifies her more than the fire ever did. She just changed everything. By saving this man, she's made herself visible. She's made herself matter. And in Victor Ashford's world, mattering can be the most dangerous thing of all. 3 days later, East Sydney Medical Center, a private floor, the kind of floor that doesn't officially exist in the hospital's directory. Victor Ashford is sitting up in bed, still recovering, but conscious now. His left arm is in a cast. Bandages cover 30% of his body, but he's alive. He's awake. And more importantly, he wants answers. Standing outside his door, Sebastian Cross, Victor's head of security, is briefing his team. Sebastian is the kind of man who looks like he was carved from concrete, tall, scarred. The kind of person who doesn't smile much because he's usually seeing the worst version of human nature. Background check on the Maid, Sebastian says into his phone. His voice is calm, measured, dangerous. I want everything. Where she lived before Sydney, who her family is, any connection to Brennan's crew, anything unusual, and I want it in the next 4 hours. Inside the room, Isla sits in a chair in the corner. They're making her stay here while the investigation happens. She's told her version of the story 7 times now. She was delivering coffee. The explosion happened. She entered the study. She found Victor. She dragged him out. It's a simple story. It's the truth. But there's something about the way Sebastian watches her that makes her skin crawl, like he's trying to decode something hidden, like he doesn't believe her. Why did you go back in? Victor asks. His voice is still hoarse from the smoke inhalation, but there's intensity behind it, a sharpness. The man is injured, but his mind is working, processing, calculating. Isla doesn't answer immediately. She's prepared for this question. She's rehearsed it, but something about saying it out loud to Victor directly makes it harder. Because you were in there, she says finally. You didn't know if I was alive. You didn't know if you could save me. You only had seconds to make a decision, and you chose to risk your life for someone you barely know. Victor is staring at her now, studying her. In my experience, people don't do that without a reason. So tell me, Isla, what's the reason? She meets his eyes. She can feel her heart rate increasing. This is the moment where everything becomes harder to hide. I acted on instinct, she says. That's all. He doesn't believe her. It's clear in his expression. But before he can push further, an older man enters the room. Dr. Harrison, the private physician. He checks Victor's vitals, makes notes, and leaves without saying much. The moment he exits, Sebastian enters. Your security footage, Sebastian says to Victor, handing him a tablet. We recovered it from the backup server before the fire destroyed the primary system. Take a look at this. The video plays. It shows the study moments before the explosion. Someone enters the study, a man Isla doesn't recognize. Average build, expensive suit. He's carrying something in his jacket that could be a device. He's talking to Victor, but the audio is muffled. They're arguing about something. Victor's face is angry. The man's face is determined. And then the other man reaches into his jacket. Then the screen goes black. Explosion. This wasn't random, Sebastian says. This was planned. Someone wanted you dead, Victor. And this Maid, he looks directly at Isla, just happened to be here to save you. That's either the most incredible coincidence in Sydney's history, or something else is going on. Isla feels her palms getting sweaty. She knew the explosion was an attack. Victor warned her about that. But seeing it, watching someone deliberately try to murder him, makes it real in a different way. Except she also knows something Sebastian doesn't know yet. She knows that there might be a reason someone wanted to kill Victor. A reason connected to her father. A reason that goes back 8 years. Where were you before you came to work for me? Victor asks Isla. He's pushing now, because Sebastian has spooked him. What was your life like? Melbourne, Isla says. I was living in Melbourne for the past 8 months before I moved here. And before that? She pauses. This is the dangerous ground. This is where the lies she's constructed start to crack. My mother was sick, Isla says carefully. She died 2 years ago. I was caring for her. After she passed, I needed a change. So I moved to Melbourne. Then I saw your job posting. I applied. I got hired. That's it. Ass Creed. It's not a lie, but it's also not the complete truth. The complete truth is that she moved to Melbourne because she needed to disappear. The complete truth is that she saw the job posting at Victor's mansion because she was specifically looking for a way inside. The complete truth is that she came here to find out what happened to her father 8 years ago. But she can't tell them that. Not yet. Not until she knows more. Victor nods slowly. He's not satisfied, but he's letting it go for now. You'll need protection, he says. Whoever did this now knows your face. You're connected to me now. That makes you a target. I don't need, Isla starts. It's not a request, Victor interrupts. His voice has that edge to it now. The edge that reminds you why people fear him, why people respect him. Sebastian will arrange an apartment for you, downtown. Security will be constant. You don't leave without checking in. You don't contact anyone from your old life. You don't post on social media. You basically disappear. Can you do that? Isla wants to refuse. She came here to find answers, not to become a prisoner. But she also knows that refusing means being sent away, means losing access to Victor, means failing in the reason she came here in the first place. So she nods. Yes, she says, I can do that. And in that moment, something shifts. Isla stops being invisible. She stops being just another face in the background. She becomes someone who matters. She becomes someone Victor Ashford is personally invested in, and she has no idea what that's going to cost her. The apartment Sebastian arranges is exactly what you'd expect from a security operation. 14th floor, downtown Sydney, views of the harbor, modern furniture that nobody uses. A kitchen that's never been used to cook anything. And behind every wall, behind every appliance, there are security cameras, microphones, probably things she doesn't even know about. It's a very comfortable prison. Isla sits on the balcony, looking out at the lights of Sydney, and she makes a decision. She pulls out her phone, a new phone that Sebastian gave her, and she sends an encrypted message to the only other person who knows why she's really here. Dr. Helena Lynch, private investigator, the woman Isla hired 6 months ago with the last of her mother's inheritance to help find answers about what happened to her father. The response comes back 5 minutes later. We need to meet. It's not safe, but we need to meet. That's when Isla knows something has changed, something has escalated, and it's not going to be good. They meet in a coffee shop in Parramatta, public place, anonymous enough that nobody would notice them together. Dr. Lynch is in her 50s, sharp-eyed, and carrying a folder. She looks worried, actually worried. Not, the case is difficult, worried. But something dangerous has happened, worried. Your situation just became more complicated, Dr. Lynch says, sliding the folder across the table. I was digging into your father's disappearance, like you asked. Nobody was expecting anything to happen because the case has been cold for 8 years. But then the explosion at Victor Ashford's mansion happened. And suddenly, people who haven't talked to me in years are calling me with information. What kind of information? Isla asks. The kind that suggests Victor Ashford might be responsible for your father's death. The words hit like a physical blow. Isla feels her chest tighten. She's been suspecting this. She's been working toward discovering this. But hearing it confirmed, hearing a professional say it out loud is different. It's real now. What do you have? Isla asks, opening the folder. Inside are documents, photographs, bank records, a map marked with locations across Sydney. Dr. Lynch points to a specific date, 8 years ago, March 15th. Your father, James Thorne, was working as a logistics coordinator for Victor Ashford's construction company. He wasn't directly involved in the crime operations, at least, not as far as we can tell, but he was trusted. He knew routes, he knew schedules, he knew how things worked. And, Isla prompts. And then he stumbled onto something he wasn't supposed to know about. According to my sources, there was a transport operation, valuable goods, high-stakes business. James was involved in the logistics, but the operation went catastrophically wrong. It was hit, ambushed, by rival organizations. People died, the goods were lost, and your father James Thorne was never found again. Isla's hands are shaking. She picks up the coffee cup to hide it. People said he ran, that he couldn't handle the failure, that he abandoned your family because the guilt was too much. But I don't think that's true. I think he was killed. And I think Victor Ashford knows what happened. Why are you telling me this now? Isla asks. Why today? Because of the explosion, Dr. Lynch says. It's not connected to your father's death. The timing doesn't line up. The people involved are different. But it means that Victor's world is imploding. People are making moves. People who were quiet for 8 years are suddenly active. And that means there's a window. A moment where information can be extracted. A moment where people might talk. Isla closes her eyes. She came here to get answers, but she didn't expect the answers to be this dangerous. She didn't expect to be living in Victor's secured apartment while at the same time discovering that he might have killed her father. What do you want me to do? Isla asks. Nothing reckless, Dr. Lynch says immediately. But when Victor reaches out to you again, when he brings you into his inner circle, and he will, because he's curious about you now, I want you to listen. I want you to observe. I want you to pay attention to anything he says about the transport operation or about your father. Can you do that? Isla nods. But inside, she's reeling. Because what Dr. Lynch doesn't know is that Isla is already inside Victor's inner circle. She's already protected by him. She's already in his trust. And now she has to figure out how to use that position to find out if the man she saved is the man who killed her father. When Isla returns to the apartment, her phone is already ringing. It's Victor. I want to thank you properly, he says. His voice is different now. Softer. More human. I want to meet. Tomorrow evening. My office. Just us. Okay, Isla says carefully. And Isla? Victor continues. I need you to tell me the truth about why you really came to work for me, because something isn't adding up. And I need to know what it is before this goes any further. The line goes dead. He's hanging up without waiting for a response. And Isla realizes that he knows, or at least he suspects. He knows that there's more to her story than she's told him. He knows that she has a reason for being here, beyond needing a job. And tomorrow evening, she's going to have to decide whether to keep lying or whether to trust him with the truth. This is where the story gets dangerous. This is where Isla stops being a bystander and becomes an active player in something much bigger than herself. Victor's office is exactly what you'd expect from a man who operates in the spaces between the legal and the illegal, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Sydney Harbor. Modern art on the walls that costs more than most houses, a desk that's probably made from endangered wood, and behind the desk, sitting in a leather chair like it's a throne, is Victor Ashford. He looks different from when he was in the hospital. Stronger, more himself. The bandages are still there, but they're hidden under an expensive suit. He's had his people bring him back into the office because staying home means you're weak. And weakness is something Victor Ashford cannot afford to show. Isla enters. They're alone. No Sebastian, no staff. Just the two of them. And the sound of the Sydney night outside. Sit, Victor says. It's not an invitation, it's a command. Isla sits in the chair across from him. Her heart is racing. This is the moment. This is where everything changes. She can either continue lying, or she can take Dr. Lynch's advice and tell the truth and hope that truth somehow helps her. Hope that understanding why Isla came here might make Victor more willing to tell her the truth in return. Why did you really come to work for me? Victor asks. He's not looking at her. He's looking at his hands, like he's giving her a moment to prepare herself. My father, Isla says. The words come out quiet, but they're out there now. 8 years ago, he disappeared. He worked for you, in your logistics operation. One day he was here, and the next day he was just gone. Everyone said he abandoned us, that he couldn't handle the failure of a transport operation. That he ran away. Victor is quiet. He still hasn't looked at her. But I don't think that's true, Isla continues. I think something happened to him, something connected to you. So I got a job at your company. I got into your house, and I was trying to figure out what really happened. I was trying to find out if you killed him. Now Victor looks at her, and his expression is complex. It's not anger. It's not even surprise. It's something like recognition, like he's been waiting for this moment. Your father was James Thorne, Victor says. It's not a question. Yes. And you came to my house to investigate me. He says it like he's confirming something to himself. Yes, but I didn't know about the explosion. I didn't know someone was going to try to kill you. When that happened, I reacted. I didn't think about it. I just couldn't let you die. Victor stands up. He walks to the window and looks out at the harbor. For a long moment, he doesn't speak. Isla can hear her own heartbeat. She's certain he's going to have her arrested. She's certain she's just made a terrible mistake. Your father was a good man, Victor says finally. He was loyal. He was careful. He wasn't greedy like some of the others. I trusted him, and I got him killed. Isla feels like the air has been sucked out of the room. Tell me, she says. Victor turns back to look at her, and for the first time, Isla sees something vulnerable in his expression, something that looks like genuine regret. There was a transport operation, Victor explains. High-value goods, valuable merchandise, extremely profitable if it went right. Your father was part of the logistics team. He wasn't doing anything illegal, not directly. He was just coordinating routes and schedules. But someone knew about the operation, someone with connections to rival organizations, and they hit us. They ambushed the convoy. What happened? Isla asks. People died, goods were lost, and your father James was there during the ambush. He was supposed to be coordinating the route, but he got caught in the crossfire. But that wasn't what killed him, Isla. That's just where it started. Victor pauses. He's deciding how much to tell her. He's deciding whether she deserves the truth or whether the truth will just hurt her more. Your father was at the ambush site, Victor continues, and he saw something. He realized that the ambush wasn't random. It wasn't intelligence that was somehow leaked. It was somebody from inside my organization. Someone he recognized. He tried to come to me with the information, but before he could get to me, before he could talk to me, he was taken care of. He was silenced, permanently. Who? Isla asks. She can feel tears forming, but she pushes them back. She needs to stay focused. Who did it? That's what I've been trying to figure out for 8 years, Victor says. I've had my best people investigating. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars tracking every lead. But whoever did it covered their tracks very well. They made sure there was no evidence, no body, no witnesses. Just your father, James Thorne, who simply disappeared. Isla stands up. She needs to move. She needs to do something because sitting still is going to break her. And you never found them? She asks. Never, Victor admits. Until 3 days ago. Isla stops moving. She turns back to look at Victor. The explosion, she says. The man who planted the bomb wasn't the man who killed your father. But it's connected. Everything is connected. And that man, the one who tried to kill me, he might be able to lead us to the person who actually did it. Victor walks back to his desk. He opens a drawer and pulls out a file. He hands it to Isla. Her hands are shaking as she opens it. Inside are photographs, surveillance images, bank records. A name, Ryan Brennan. Ryan Brennan has been quiet for 8 years, Victor explains. Too quiet. He works with construction companies all over Sydney. He has connections to several criminal organizations. But his pattern changed after the explosion. My security team has been tracking him. He's been meeting with people. He's been making calls to people he hasn't contacted in years. He's agitated, like something is happening. You think he's connected to my father's death, Isla says. I know he is, Victor confirms. And I think with the right pressure, with the right approach, he might tell us the truth. But I need you to understand something, Isla. Finding this man, getting him to talk, that's not going to be clean. That's not going to be safe. There are going to be complications. I don't care, Isla says immediately. I've spent 8 years wondering what happened to my father. I've spent 8 years watching my mother slowly break because she didn't have answers. I watched her die with that question unanswered. So no, I don't care about complications. I need to know what happened. Victor nods. He understands, because he's someone who also understands what it means to need answers so badly that you're willing to sacrifice everything else to find them. Over the next 3 weeks, something changes between Victor and Isla. They're not quite friends. They're not quite partners either. But they're connected now. Connected by the shared truth about James Thorne. Connected by the investigation that's becoming all-consuming. Victor's security team is tracking Ryan Brennan's movements. Sebastian has people following him. They're documenting his meetings, his phone calls, his patterns. And slowly, a picture emerges. Ryan Brennan is not just connected to the original ambush. He's terrified of something or someone. He keeps looking over his shoulder. He keeps changing locations. He knows we're looking for him, Sebastian tells Victor and Isla during a briefing in the office. But he doesn't know what we want. He might think we're going to kill him, or arrest him, or both. Let him think that, Victor says. Fear makes people make mistakes. Mistakes make people talk. Isla is sitting on the edge of the conversation, listening. She's learning how this world works, how power operates in the spaces between legality and criminality. How men like Victor actually move through the world. There's something else, Sebastian says, handing Victor another folder. We found a connection we didn't expect. What? Victor asks. Mrs. Reeves, your head housekeeper. She's Ryan Brennan's cousin. The room goes silent. Isla's breath catches. Mrs. Reeves, the woman who trained her, the woman who gave her the job, the woman who sent her to Victor's study with coffee on the night of the explosion. How long have they been in contact? Victor asks. His voice is completely calm, but Isla can see the anger underneath it. The betrayal. Regularly. Phone calls, text messages, occasional in-person meetings. Nothing that would flag as unusual on its own, but put together, she's been facilitating his access to the mansion. She's been giving him information about security rotations, about your schedule, about movements in and out of the property. Victor closes his eyes. He's processing this betrayal. He's understanding that someone he's trusted for years has been working against him. And worse, she's been right there, in his house, the entire time. Bring her in, Victor says quietly. Bring her in and find out what she knows about Ryan Brennan's movements. As the meeting ends, Isla follows Victor out into the hallway. This is getting bigger, she says. It's not just about my father anymore. No. Victor agrees. It's not. But it might lead us to the person who killed him. That's all that matters right now. What matters, Isla says carefully, is that you're putting yourself at risk for this. For me. Why? Victor stops walking. He turns to face her. Because your father was a good man, and he deserved better than what happened to him. And because you saved my life, you had every reason to let me die in that fire. You had every reason to walk away. But you didn't. That means something to me. That means I owe you the truth, and I'm going to help you get it, no matter what it costs. The connection between them intensifies in that moment. It's not romantic, but it's something. It's an understanding. It's a commitment. It's the moment when Isla realizes that Victor Ashford is capable of genuine change, capable of genuine human connection. Despite everything he's done, despite all the people he's hurt, there's something in him that responds to her courage, that responds to her sacrifice. Mrs. Reeves is brought in quietly. No arrest warrant, no police involved, just Sebastian's people, collecting her from her small apartment in Parramatta at midnight. She's placed in a secure room in one of Victor's facilities. A room with no windows, no way out. Just a table, 3 chairs, and the weight of being caught in betrayal. Victor doesn't interrogate her personally. He sends Sebastian, but Isla watches through one-way glass. She needs to see this. She needs to understand. How long? Sebastian asks. His voice is ice. There's no humanity in it, just cold, calculated authority. Mrs. Reeves is crying. She's in her 60s. She's worked for Victor for 15 years, and now she's facing the consequences of her choices. 8 years, she admits. I've been in contact with Ryan for 8 years. Why? Sebastian asks. Family, Mrs. Reeves says. He's my cousin, my sister's boy, and he was in trouble, real trouble. He needed someone on the inside, someone who could help. I didn't think it would hurt anyone. I needed to help my family. What did you tell him about the mansion? About Victor's movements? Mrs. Reeves hesitates. This is the moment where she either protects herself or tells the truth. She chooses to protect herself. Nothing about the explosion. I swear I didn't know anything about the bomb. I didn't know he was planning to kill Victor. I wouldn't have. But you gave him access? Sebastian interrupts. You gave him information that he could use, and that information led to the attempt on Victor's life. That information put everyone in that house at risk. Do you understand that? Mrs. Reeves breaks down completely. She's crying so hard she can barely breathe. I need to know something, Isla says through the intercom to Sebastian. Ask her about my father. Ask her about James Thorne. Sebastian nods. He turns back to Mrs. Reeves. Did Ryan Brennan ever mention someone named James Thorne? A man named James Thorne who disappeared 8 years ago? Mrs. Reeves' face goes pale. She nods slowly. Yes, she whispers. Yes, he mentioned him. He said James found out about something he wasn't supposed to know about. He said James was going to go to Victor. He said Ryan had to handle it. He said it was the only way. He said he had to silence him. Isla feels her knees buckle, even though she suspected this, even though she came here expecting to find that her father was dead. Hearing Mrs. Reeves confirm it, hearing someone say that Ryan Brennan killed her father, is almost more than she can bear. Isla walks out of the viewing room and into the interrogation room. She needs to see Mrs. Reeves face to face. She needs to hear this from someone who knew. Why didn't you tell anyone? Isla asks. Her voice is surprisingly calm. Why didn't you tell Victor? Why didn't you go to the police? Mrs. Reeves looks at Isla, and something shifts in her expression. Recognition, understanding. She knows who Isla is. Because I was afraid, Mrs. Reeves says. I was afraid of what Ryan would do to me if I betrayed him. He's not a good man, Isla. He's capable of terrible things. Did you know that my father had a daughter? Isla asks. Did you know that he left behind a family that was destroyed by his disappearance? Did you know my mother died wondering what happened to him? I'm sorry, Mrs. Reeves says, and she sounds like she means it. But sorry doesn't bring James Thorne back. Sorry doesn't undo 8 years of questioning and pain. Isla turns and leaves the room. She can't be in there anymore. The anger is too big. The grief is too overwhelming. Out in the hallway, Sebastian is waiting. We're going to find Ryan Brennan, Sebastian says. We're going to bring him in, and we're going to get him to confess to everything. What happened to your father? What he was planning with the bomb? All of it. When? Isla asks. Soon, Sebastian says. We have his location. He's moving to a dock facility in Piermont tomorrow evening. We're going to hit him there. This is the point where Isla should probably walk away. This is the point where she should let the professionals handle it. But she doesn't. She can't. Because this is about her father. This is about the man who killed him. This is about the only chance she's going to get to find out the complete truth. I'm coming with you, Isla says. Absolutely not, Sebastian responds immediately. I'm coming with you, Isla repeats. You can keep me in the car. You can keep me safe. But I need to be there. I need to see him. I need to hear the truth from his own mouth. Sebastian looks like he wants to refuse. But then he gets a call. He steps away. When he comes back, his expression has changed. Victor said, if you want to come, you come, Sebastian says, but you stay in the vehicle. You do not leave that vehicle for any reason. Understand? Isla nods. Tomorrow evening, she's going to finally come face to face with the man who killed her father. And nothing in her life will ever be the same. Part 7. The Warehouse, 33 to 040 to 0. Evening. Piermont. The Port Authority dock. The kind of place where Sydney's less official business gets conducted. Shipping containers stacked like massive building blocks. Warehouses that haven't been cleaned in decades. Security lighting that casts long shadows. And somewhere in this industrial maze, Ryan Brennan is about to be found. Isla sits in the back of a black SUV parked 300 meters away from the warehouse where Ryan is supposed to be. She can see Victor and Sebastian through the vehicles parked in front. They're communicating with earpieces. Isla has one too, but she's not supposed to talk. She's just supposed to watch, just supposed to listen. We have visual, someone says through the earpiece. It's one of Victor's security team. Target is inside the main warehouse. He's meeting with someone. Looks like they're discussing something. Could be a transaction of some kind. Are they armed? Victor's voice comes through the earpiece. Calm, professional. He's done this before. One security guard. Handgun under his jacket. The target, Brennan, doesn't appear to be armed. Hold position, Victor says. Let's see where this leads. Isla leans forward in her seat. Her heart is pounding so hard she can hear it. This is it. This is the moment where she finally comes face to face with the person responsible for destroying her life. She spent 8 years wondering what he looks like, 8 years trying to imagine his face, and now she's about to see him. Victor gets out of his vehicle. Sebastian follows. They're moving toward the warehouse. Other security personnel are positioning themselves around the building. This is not subtle. This is not going to be quiet. This is a show of force, designed to intimidate and control. Going in, Victor says through the earpiece. Isla watches as Victor and Sebastian enter the warehouse. Through the vehicle's open window, she can hear sounds, voices shouting, movement, and then, "Drop your weapon, now." Gunshots. The sound is explosive and terrifying. Isla jumps, her hands gripping the seat. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't supposed to turn into a firefight. Status. Victor's voice comes through the earpiece, sharp and authoritative. Guard opened fire. We returned fire. He's down. Target is trying to escape through the back. Stop him! I want Brennan alive! More sounds. Running. Shouting. The chaos of organized violence. Isla's hands are shaking. She wants to look away, but she can't. She needs to see this. She needs to be part of this. Minutes that feel like hours pass. And then finally, silence. The kind of silence that means the situation is resolved, or at least temporarily controlled. Victor's voice comes through the earpiece again. Secure the area, get the body out of sight, and get Brennan into the interrogation van. We're moving in 5 minutes. Isla sees movement. Security personnel escorting someone, a man in his 50s, terrified, struggling toward a van parked on the side of the warehouse. That's Ryan Brennan. That's the man who killed her father. That's the man whose actions set in motion everything that led to this moment. And then Victor appears next to the SUV. He opens the passenger door and gets in. We got him, Victor says. We're moving to the secondary location. You stay in the vehicle. You keep quiet. You don't interfere. You understand? Isla nods. She can't speak. Her emotions are too big. Rage and grief and fear and anticipation all mixed together. The convoy moves. The SUV carrying Isla follows the van carrying Ryan Brennan. They drive through Sydney's streets, heading toward an industrial area on the outskirts of the city. A place where Victor can ask questions without worrying about being interrupted by police or concerned citizens. If you're still watching right now, you need to hit that subscribe button, because what happens next in this video is going to completely change everything. The truth about what really happened to Isla's father is about to come out, and it's worse than anyone expected. Subscribe right now so you don't miss the rest of this story. The interrogation room is not what Isla expected. It's not dark and claustrophobic. It's actually quite normal. White walls, fluorescent lights, a table, chairs. It looks like any other office space, but the atmosphere is heavy with purpose. This is a room where information is extracted. This is a room where truth comes out. Ryan Brennan is placed in the chair across from Victor. His hands are not bound, but there are security personnel positioned around the room. There's no way out. No way to escape. No way to do anything except answer questions. Victor sits down slowly. He's not rushing. He's in control of the pace. He's in control of everything. I want to know everything, Victor says calmly. I want to know about James Thorne. I want to know about the transport operation. I want to know about the bomb. I want to know every detail of every crime you've committed over the past 8 years. And I want to know what made you stupid enough to think you could plant an explosive device in my house and walk away from it. Ryan Brennan looks terrified. His eyes are darting around the room. He's looking for an exit. He's looking for help that isn't coming. I want a lawyer, Ryan says. His voice is shaky. This isn't a police interrogation, Victor responds. You don't get a lawyer. You get a choice. You can tell me what I want to know. And maybe I let you live. or you stay silent and things get very uncomfortable for you. What's it going to be? Ryan swallows hard. He knows what this situation is. He knows what Victor is capable of. He knows that his choices are limited. What do you want to know? Ryan asks finally. James Thorne, Victor says. Start there. Ryan is quiet for a long moment. Then he begins to speak. James was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The transport operation was set up by my brother and some of his associates. We were hitting you, Victor. We wanted to take the goods. We wanted to damage your organization. But James, he was there during the hit. He saw something he wasn't supposed to see. He saw my face. He recognized me. So you killed him, Victor says. I had to, Ryan insists. If he talked to you, if he told you what he'd seen, if he identified me, it would have destroyed everything. My brother would have been caught. I would have been caught. We would have gone to prison. So yes, I made the decision. I had to silence him. I had to make sure he couldn't talk. Isla is listening to this from where she's positioned outside the interrogation room, watching through one-way glass. She can feel tears streaming down her face. This man is casually describing the murder of her father like it's a business decision, like James Thorne was nothing more than an inconvenience that needed to be removed. What happened to his body? Victor asks. Ryan hesitates. What happened to his body? Victor repeats, his voice harder now. He's in the Parramatta River, Ryan says. We weighted him down. We made sure he would stay down. Nobody was supposed to find him. The words hit Isla like a punch to the stomach. Her father is in the river, has been in the river for 8 years, has been decomposing in dark water this entire time, while everyone wondered what happened to him. Victor stands up. He looks at Ryan with an expression of complete contempt. You know what I find interesting? Victor says. I find it interesting that you can sit here and casually describe murdering a man like you're discussing the weather. I find it interesting that you thought an explosion in my study would somehow make up for that. And I find it interesting that you're stupid enough to think there would be any consequences for what you've done besides the very real consequences that are about to follow. Victor turns to Sebastian. Call Detective Rowley. Tell him we have Ryan Brennan in custody. Tell him we have a confession regarding the murder of James Thorne. And tell him we can lead him to the body. Ryan's face goes pale. He understands what's happening. He's being turned over to the police. That means trials. That means prison. That means his life, what's left of it, is over. Wait. Ryan says desperately. Wait. I can give you more information. I can give you the names of people involved in the transport operation. I can give you information about other operations. I don't care. Victor interrupts. You killed an innocent man. You destroyed a family. You murdered someone I trusted. And nothing you tell me changes that. Nothing you offer me brings James Thorne back. Victor leaves the interrogation room. He walks to where Isla is standing. It's done, he says. The police are on their way. They'll take Brennan into custody. They'll process him. They'll build a case. And then he'll stand trial for murder. Isla can't speak. The words feel stuck in her throat. She's been searching for this truth for so long, and now that she has it, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like loss. It feels like confirmation of the worst thing she's always suspected. But here's what nobody expected. Ryan Brennan's confession about James Thorne is only the beginning, because during the interrogation, he mentions something else. He mentions that he had help. He mentions that he had inside access to the mansion during the night of the explosion. He mentions that someone helped him plant the bomb. And that's when things get dangerous. Because Ryan Brennan reveals the names of 2 people, Peter Westbrook, Victor's real estate manager, and Mrs. Reeves, the head housekeeper. Victor receives this information from Sebastian, and his expression changes completely, from calm and controlled to something darker, something more dangerous. They worked together? Victor asks Sebastian. Reeves and Westbrook were actively conspiring to kill me? It appears so, Sebastian confirms. Brennan says he's been working with Reeves for years. She facilitated his access to the mansion. She gave him security information. And Westbrook. Westbrook has family ties to Brennan's family. He's been motivated by resentment. He felt like you were unjust. He felt like you'd treated his family unfairly. So he decided to help Brennan plan the bomb. Victor stands up. He's pacing now. He's processing the magnitude of the betrayal. "Bring them both in," Victor says. "Bring them in now. I want to know everything." Within hours, both Peter Westbrook and Mrs. Reeves are brought into separate interrogation rooms, and one by one, they admit to their involvement. They admit to the conspiracy. They admit to working with Ryan Brennan. And then something unexpected happens. Mrs. Reeves breaks down during her interrogation, and she tells them something that changes everything. She tells them that Ryan Brennan wasn't acting alone when he killed James Thorne. She tells them that there was someone else involved, someone in Victor's organization who authorized the hit, someone with more power than Ryan Brennan, someone whose name has been hidden for 8 years because nobody knew where to look. "Who?" Victor demands. "Who authorized the hit on James Thorne?" Mrs. Reeves shakes her head. "I don't know," she says. "I swear I don't know. Ryan never told me who it was. He said it was someone above him, someone he was scared of, someone he still owes money to." Victor realizes, in this moment, that he's uncovered a conspiracy that goes even deeper than he thought. The explosion wasn't just about revenge for a past wrong. The conspiracy wasn't just about disgruntled employees and criminal associates. There's something else. There's someone else. Someone who's been operating in the shadows of his organization the entire time. And the question of who that person is becomes the new mystery, the new driving force, the new reason everything needs to be investigated further. Isla is in the security office, watching all of this unfold on monitoring screens. She's seeing the interrogations. She's hearing the confessions. She's understanding that her father's murder was just the first stone in a much larger avalanche. Victor finds her in the security office. "I'm sorry," he says. "I'm sorry that the truth about your father is mixed up with all of this other darkness. I'm sorry that finding answers about him means uncovering even deeper conspiracies. What matters is that we know what happened," Isla says. "What matters is that Ryan Brennan is going to face consequences for murdering him. What matters is that my father isn't forgotten anymore." But there's another question now, a question that neither of them can answer yet. "Who authorized the hit?" Isla asks. "Who was the person above Ryan Brennan who ordered my father's death?" "That's what we're going to find out," Victor says. "That's what we're going to uncover, no matter what it takes." And in the background, unbeknownst to either of them, Detective James Rowley is listening to all of this. He's understanding the scope of what he's dealing with. He's understanding that multiple crimes have been committed, multiple people need to be charged, and the investigation into James Thorne's death has just become infinitely more complicated. After everything comes out, after all the interrogations are complete, after all the confessions are recorded, Victor faces a choice that nobody expected he would make. He could handle this the way he's handled everything else in his life, quietly, in the shadows, with people disappearing and problems being solved without legal consequences. That's how his world has always worked. That's how people like him maintain power. But something is different now. Something about finding James Thorne's body in the river. Something about seeing Ila's pain at discovering her father is dead. Something about watching the conspiracy unravel and realizing how many lives have been destroyed by this culture of shadow and secrecy. Victor sits down with Isla in his office. They're alone. Late evening, the city lights are glowing outside the windows. "I could make this go away," Victor says. "I could have Brennan, Westbrook, and Reeves disappear. I could have them handled quietly, and nobody would ever know about their crimes. Nobody would ever face any consequences through the legal system." Isla is quiet, waiting for him to continue. "But I think that's the wrong choice now," Victor says. "I think the right choice is to let the police do their job, to let them prosecute, to let the justice system handle it. I think I've spent too many years operating in the shadows, and I think it's time for that to change." "What about the person who authorized the hit?" Isla asks. "What about finding them?" "We'll find them," Victor says. "And when we do, they'll face consequences too. But legal consequences, not my consequences, not the way I've always done it. I think I want to try something different. I think I want to try doing things the right way." Isla doesn't respond immediately. She's processing what Victor is saying. She's understanding that this represents a fundamental shift. A fundamental change in how he views himself and his role in the world. "What if I told you to keep looking in the shadows?" Isla asks. "What if I told you to handle it the way you always have? Would you still choose the legal path?" Victor looks at her directly. "Yes," he says, "I would, because your father deserves justice, not vengeance. He deserves to be recognized as a victim. He deserves to have his death acknowledged publicly. And that can only happen through the legal system. That can only happen if we do this the right way." And in that moment, something shifts between Victor and Isla. The relationship between them deepens. It's no longer just about investigation or information. It's about shared values. It's about the decision to do what's right instead of what's easy. It's about the possibility of redemption and transformation. Detective Rowley arrives at Victor's office that evening. He's a career cop, skeptical, experienced. He's spent 20 years seeing the worst of human nature. And now he's being asked to believe that Victor Ashford, a known criminal operator, is voluntarily turning over evidence and confessions about crimes that he could easily cover up. "This is highly irregular," Detective Rowley says, sitting across from Victor. "In my experience, people like you don't cooperate with law enforcement unless there's something in it for them. So, I need to understand what this is about. What's your angle?" "There is no angle," Victor responds. "There's just a man who died 8 years ago without anyone knowing the truth about his death, and I think his family deserves to know that truth. I think his death should be acknowledged. I think the people responsible should face consequences, and I think the only way that happens is if we work together." Detective Rowley studies Victor for a long moment. He's trying to determine if this is genuine or if it's some kind of manipulation. He's trying to figure out if there's a hidden agenda. "The body?" Detective Rowley says, "James Thorne's body is in the Parramatta River, 8 years in water. There's not going to be much left. Identifying him is going to be extremely difficult. His dental records still exist," Victor says. "His mother kept them. And there's a DNA connection his daughter is available for comparison. That should be enough to establish identity." End quote. Detective Rowley nods. This is detailed information. This is information that suggests Victor has actually thought about this, actually considered the practical logistics of confirming identity and building a case. "I'm going to need statements from you," Detective Rowley says. "I'm going to need you available for questioning. I'm going to need full cooperation." "You have it," Victor says. And with that agreement, the legal machinery begins to turn. The investigation becomes official. The police become involved. And the case of James Thorne's disappearance transitions from a cold case mystery to an active criminal investigation. Outside the office, Isla is waiting. Victor emerges and sees her expression a mix of emotions: relief, sadness, anger, all of it compressed into a single moment. "It's happening," Victor says. "The investigation is official now. It's going to take time, but it's happening." Isla nods. She doesn't know yet that this decision, Victor's decision to cooperate with law enforcement, to do this the right way, is going to change everything. It's going to be the beginning of something larger, something more significant, something that's going to transform not just his relationship with Isla, but his entire life. The recovery operation begins 2 days later. Police divers work in the Parramatta River, searching through murky water and sediment for the remains of James Thorne. It's a grim process, methodical, slow, and emotionally devastating for Isla, who watches from the riverbank with Detective Rowley. "How long?" Isla asks. "Could be days," Detective Rowley says. "The river is deep in places. Bodies can drift. Weights can fail. We might be looking at a significant search area." But then, on the second day, they find something. A weighted bag. Inside the bag, skeletal remains. Bone fragments. The remnants of a human body that's been underwater for 8 years. Dental records are compared. DNA is analyzed. Within 48 hours, there's official confirmation. The remains are James Thorne. Isla is sitting in a cafe when Detective Rowley calls her with the news. She doesn't cry. She doesn't scream. She just sits there with her coffee going cold, understanding that her father is dead. Has been dead for 8 years. Has been in the river for 8 years. And now, at least she knows. At least, it's confirmed. At least, there's no more wondering. That evening, Isla goes to Victor's office. He's waiting for her. He knows about the confirmation. Everyone knows by now. I'm sorry, Victor says. I'm genuinely sorry, Isla. I know, Isla responds. But I need something from you. I need to know who authorized the hit. I need to know who gave Ryan Brennan the order to kill my father. Victor sits back in his chair. I've been investigating that myself, Victor says. I have my security team going through records from 8 years ago. I'm looking at everyone in my organization at that time. I'm cross-referencing finances, looking for payments that don't add up, looking for communication patterns that suggest involvement. And I found something, Victor says. He opens a file on his desk. 8 years ago, right around the time of the transport operation, there were payments made from my organization to an external account. Large payments. Payments that were supposedly for external consulting services. But the consulting services don't exist. The companies that supposedly provided the services don't exist. Where did the money come from? Isla asks. That's the problem, Victor says. The money came from my discretionary account, which means either someone had access to it, or I authorized it and forgot about it. I'm pretty sure I didn't authorize it, which means someone with high-level access had the ability to move money through my accounts. Peter Westbrook, Isla says. Maybe, Victor agrees. Westbrook has been with me for 10 years. He has access to real estate operations, which is a cash-heavy business. He would have had the ability to move money quietly, but I can't confirm it's him without finding the paper trail. Victor stands up and walks to the window. Here's what I'm not telling you, Victor continues. I'm not telling you that I've already sent my security team to Peter Westbrook's house. I'm not telling you that they're currently searching his personal records and his home office. And I'm not telling you that they're going to find evidence that confirms he authorized the hit on your father. Isla understands what Victor is saying. He's operating in a gray area. He's using his resources to investigate in ways that might not be entirely legal. But he's also turning the evidence over to Detective Rowley when he finds it. He's working within and outside the system simultaneously. Why are you doing this? Isla asks. Because your father's killer needs to face justice, Victor says. But also because I need to understand who in my organization tried to kill me. I need to understand the conspiracy. And I need to make sure it doesn't happen again. 2 days later, Victor receives a message. The search of Peter Westbrook's home has uncovered evidence, financial records, email correspondence, documentation that proves Westbrook authorized the payment to Ryan Brennan to kill James Thorne. The payment was made under the guise of external security consulting, but it was actually a contract hit authorization. Victor turns this evidence over to Detective Rowley without hesitation. He provides everything. He cooperates completely. And within 24 hours, Peter Westbrook is arrested on charges of conspiracy and murder for hire. But something unexpected happens. After Westbrook's arrest, Ryan Brennan requests a deal. He wants to make a deal with the prosecution. He wants to testify against Westbrook in exchange for a reduced sentence on the James Thorne murder. That's not justice for your father, Victor tells Isla. That's a transaction. That's a negotiation. But Isla realizes something that Victor doesn't quite grasp yet. She realizes that justice isn't always clean. Justice isn't always perfect. Sometimes justice means accepting compromises that feel unfair, but that are necessary for the system to work. If Brennan testifies, Isla says, then Westbrook will be convicted. Then there will be consequences. Then my father's death will be publicly acknowledged as a murder, not a disappearance. But Brennan gets out in 15 years instead of serving a life sentence, Victor says. He killed your father, and he gets to walk free because he's cooperating. I know, Isla says, and it's not fair, but it's the trade-off. It's how the system works. And I think I'm willing to accept that trade-off if it means Westbrook goes to prison for life. Victor is struggling with this. He's struggling with the idea that the system can't deliver perfect justice, that compromises have to be made, that the man who killed James Thorne might someday walk out of prison alive. That's when the real moral crisis begins for Victor, because he has to make a choice. He has to decide whether he's truly committed to the legal system and its compromises, or whether he's going to revert to his old ways and handle it himself. Handle it in a way that guarantees Brennan never leaves prison. Handle it in a way that guarantees perfect justice, even if that justice operates outside the law. Victor calls Isla to his office late one evening. He's been drinking. He's been thinking. He's been wrestling with this decision. "I could have him killed," Victor says bluntly. "I have the resources. I have the people. I could have Brennan eliminated in prison. It would be clean. It would be untraceable. And your father would have true justice. The man who killed him would be dead." Isla is shocked by the directness of this statement. She's shocked by the fact that Victor is actually considering this, actually weighing this as a legitimate option. "You're not going to do that," Isla says. "How do you know?" Victor asks. "Because I know who you are now," Isla responds. "I know that you saved my father's investigation by turning evidence over to the police. I know that you agreed to do this the right way. I know that you're capable of change. And I know that if you had Brennan killed, you would be betraying all of that. You would be betraying the person you're trying to become." Victor is quiet for a long moment. He's processing what Isla has said. He's understanding that his decision affects not just himself, but Isla's perception of him, Isla's trust in him. "I don't know if I can let him live," Victor says finally. "You can," Isla says, "because you have to. Because if you don't, then none of this means anything. If you have him killed in prison, then you're just another criminal operator. You're just another man using violence to solve problems. And I don't think that's who you want to be." Victor stands up. He walks to the window. Outside, Sydney glows with nightlights. Millions of people living their lives. Millions of people going about their business. And in the middle of all of it, Victor Ashford is wrestling with the decision to become someone different. "I'll do it your way," Victor says finally. "I'll let the system handle it. I'll let Brennan live and potentially get out someday. I'll accept that the justice isn't perfect. Because I think you're right. I think if I go back to my old ways, I'm admitting that none of this change has been real." Over the next 3 months, trials begin. Ryan Brennan testifies against Peter Westbrook in exchange for his cooperation deal. Peter Westbrook is convicted of conspiracy and murder for hire. He receives a life sentence. Mrs. Reeves receives a 12-year sentence for her role in facilitating the bombing. And slowly, the pieces of what happened 8 years ago are pieced together in a courtroom, on the record, for public consumption. The story of James Thorne becomes public knowledge, the story of his death, the circumstances surrounding it, the men who were responsible, the decisions that led to his murder, his family's 8-year struggle with not knowing, his daughter's investigation. All of it becomes part of the public record. And James Thorne, who was forgotten, who was written off as someone who abandoned his family, is recognized as a victim. He's recognized as someone who was murdered for discovering a crime. He's recognized as someone who deserves to be remembered. Isla attends all 3 trials. She sits in the courtroom. She listens to the testimonies. She hears the details of her father's death described by the men who were involved. She watches as justice, imperfect though it is served. And Victor attends the trials too. He sits behind Isla. He listens to the details. He understands the scope of what his organization did, the people it hurt, the lives it destroyed. And he makes a decision that changes everything. One evening, after the final trial concludes, Victor meets with Isla in a private restaurant. The kind of restaurant where privacy is guaranteed. The kind of place where important conversations happen. "I've made a decision," Victor tells Isla. "I'm going to restructure my organization. I'm going to separate the legitimate businesses from the criminal operations. I'm going to divest myself from anything that's not legal. I'm going to rebuild from scratch." "That's going to take years," Isla says. "That's going to attract attention from law enforcement and from rival organizations." "I know," Victor says, "but I think it's necessary. I think I've been operating in a certain way for so long that I forgot there was any other option. I think James Thorne's death and my role in it, even if indirect, made me understand that I can't keep doing this. I can't keep operating in the shadows." "What about your organization?" Isla asks. What about the people who work for you? What about the money you make? I'll structure the transition carefully, Victor says. I'll make sure people are taken care of. I'll make sure the legitimate businesses are profitable enough to support everyone. It's going to be complicated, but it's possible. Why are you telling me this? Isla asks. Because I want to ask you something, Victor says. I want to ask if you'll stay. I want to ask if you'll be part of this transition. I want to ask if you'll help me build something legitimate. Something that honors your father's memory instead of contributing to the kind of world that allowed him to be murdered. Isla takes a moment to process what Victor is asking. He's asking her to become more than an investigator seeking answers. He's asking her to become his partner in this transformation. Yes, Isla says, I'll do it. And in that moment, their relationship officially transitions from employer and employee, from suspicious benefactor and desperate seeker, to partners committed to change and justice. 6 months pass. 6 months of restructuring. 6 months of building new systems. 6 months of separating legitimate businesses from criminal operations. 6 months of transformation. Victor's construction and real estate companies are thriving. They're now operating with full transparency. Financial records are audited. Contracts are legitimate. There's no crime, no criminal activity, no violations of law. It's not as profitable as the old model, but it's stable, it's sustainable, it's legitimate. And Isla has been named as a special consultant, focused on community relations and ethical oversight within Victor's organization. She has real authority, real input, real partnership. Together, they make a decision to do something that surprises everyone. They establish the Thomas Thorne Foundation, named after Isla's father, committed to supporting families of missing persons, committed to advocating for policy changes that might prevent future disappearances, committed to justice and accountability. The Foundation's first major project is a public awareness campaign about missing persons cases. Isla appears in the campaign herself. She talks about her father. She talks about her 8-year search for answers. She talks about the importance of never giving up on people who disappear. And then, the Foundation hosts a memorial event, a public event. Families of missing persons are invited. Law enforcement is invited. Community leaders are invited. And there's a specific focus on James Thorne's case. Isla stands at a podium overlooking Sydney Harbor. She's looking out at hundreds of people who've shown up to support the foundation. She's looking at her father's photograph displayed on a screen behind her. She's looking at the future that seems possible now in a way it never did before. My father was a good man, Isla says. He was loyal. He was honest. He was someone who believed in doing the right thing. And 8 years ago, he was murdered for trying to expose a crime. For 8 years, nobody knew what happened to him. Nobody acknowledged what happened to him. And his family was left wondering and grieving and searching for answers. Isla pauses. She's fighting back tears, but her voice is strong. But today, on this day, we're acknowledging what happened to him. We're saying that James Thorne's death matters. We're saying that missing persons matter. We're saying that justice matters, even when it takes a long time. And we're saying that we're going to do everything in our power to help other families find the answers they're searching for. The crowd applauds, and Victor, standing to the side of the podium, watching Isla, understands that this moment represents everything the last 6 months have been about. This is redemption. This is transformation. This is the possibility of creating something good from something tragic. The camera catches both of them walking together along the Sydney Harbor path as the sun sets. Isla and Victor, partner and protector, seeker and changed man. Walking toward an uncertain future, but walking together. Do you think this is going to last? Isla asks as they walk. I don't know, Victor admits. There are going to be complications. There are going to be people who resist the change. There are going to be moments where I want to revert to the old ways. But I think as long as I have you reminding me why we're doing this, I can make it last. They stop at a particular viewpoint. Sydney Harbor stretches out before them. The city lights are beginning to glow as the sun reaches the horizon. The water is calm. The night is cool. And for the first time in a very long time, both of them feel like they're exactly where they're supposed to be. Do you think your father would be proud? Victor asks. Isla considers the question. Yes, she says finally. I think he would be proud that we found answers. I think he would be proud that the people responsible are facing consequences. I think he would be proud that his death is being acknowledged and remembered. I think he would be proud that something good is coming from his death. And I think he would be proud of you for changing, for choosing to become someone different. Victor takes Isla's hand. They stand there in silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon, understanding that what they've built together over the past 6 months is the beginning of something that might actually last. The trials are covered extensively by the media. 3 weeks of testimony, 3 weeks of evidence being presented in court, 3 weeks of Sydney watching as the conspiracy unravels in real time. Ryan Brennan takes the stand first. He testifies about the night he ambushed Victor's transport operation. He describes James Thorne being at the site. He describes recognizing James and realizing that James recognized him. He describes being ordered to silence him. And then, struggling with emotion that might be genuine or might be performance, he describes the act of murdering James Thorne. The courtroom is silent. The gallery is packed with journalists and community members. And Isla sits there, listening to the man describe the murder of her father, listening to him explain his motivations, listening to him try to justify an unjustifiable act. When Ryan finishes testifying, he steps down from the witness stand. He doesn't make eye contact with Isla. He doesn't acknowledge her presence. He just walks back to the defendant's table, knowing that his cooperation with the prosecution has likely already saved his life, but won't save him from decades in prison. Peter Westbrook takes the stand next. He's different from Brennan. He's angry. He's defensive. He insists that he was justified in what he did, that Victor had treated his family unfairly, that James Thorne's death was a business decision, nothing more, that the explosion was an appropriate response to years of grievance. The prosecutor tears his testimony apart. The prosecutor presents evidence that Westbrook's grievances were not legitimate, that his family was treated fairly by Victor, that his decision to authorize a murder was not justified by anything that had happened to him. The prosecutor makes it clear to the jury that Westbrook was not a victim. Westbrook was a criminal who murdered an innocent man out of spite. Mrs. Reeves testifies briefly. She admits to her role in facilitating Brennan's access to the mansion. She admits to providing security information. She admits to knowing that Brennan was planning something dangerous. She cries. She expresses remorse. But she also makes it clear that family loyalty motivated her actions. That she was trying to help her cousin, even though she knew it was wrong. The prosecutor treats her more gently than Westbrook. But the evidence is still damning. She knew what was happening. She facilitated it. She enabled it. And she deserves consequences. Detective Rowley testifies about the investigation. He presents the evidence of Westbrook's financial transactions. He presents the email correspondence. He presents the bank records. He presents the location data that shows Westbrook was near the warehouse where the bomb components were assembled. He presents a technical analysis showing how the bomb was constructed and how it was detonated. And then Isla is called to testify. She walks into the courtroom. She sits in the witness stand. And she tells the entire story. She tells about coming to work for Victor. She tells about the explosion. She tells about her investigation into her father's disappearance. She tells about hiring Dr. Helena Lynch to investigate. She tells about discovering that her father was murdered. She tells about the confrontation at the warehouse and the confession from Ryan Brennan. The defense attorney tries to paint Isla as unreliable. She's been in love with Victor, the attorney suggests. She has a bias toward believing what Victor tells her. She's compromised in her perspective. But Isla responds calmly. She explains that she worked with Detective Rowley. She explains that she cooperated with law enforcement. She explains that the evidence speaks for itself. She explains that her perspective is not bias, it's lived experience. When Isla steps down from the witness stand, she feels something shift. She feels like she's completed something. She feels like she's told the truth in the most public way possible. She feels like her father's death is no longer a mystery. It's a confirmed fact, on the record, acknowledged by the legal system. The prosecutor delivers a closing argument that details the conspiracy. He describes how three people, Ryan Brennan, Peter Westbrook, and Mrs. Reeves, worked together to commit murder and attempted murder. He describes the motive, he describes the planning, he describes the execution, and he asks the jury to deliver justice by finding all three defendants guilty on all charges. The defense presents closing arguments. They try to minimize their client's guilt. They try to argue that circumstances were extenuating. They try to suggest that justice should be tempered by understanding their client's motivations and circumstances. But the jury doesn't agree. After 3 days of deliberation, they return a guilty verdict for all three defendants on all charges. 2 weeks later, sentencing day arrives. Ryan Brennan stands before the judge. The judge reviews his crimes. The judge reviews his cooperation with the prosecution. The judge hands down a sentence, 25 years in prison for the murder of James Thorne, conspiracy, and attempted murder of Victor Ashford. Peter Westbrook stands before the judge. The judge reviews his crimes. The judge notes that Westbrook was a trusted employee of Victor Ashford, and that he betrayed that trust in the worst possible way. The judge hands down a sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mrs. Reeves stands before the judge. The judge reviews her crimes. The judge notes that while her motivation was family loyalty does not excuse facilitating murder and attempted murder. The judge hands down a sentence, 12 years in prison. In the gallery, Isla watches all three sentencings. She watches as men and women she once knew personally are led out of the courtroom in chains. She watches as the legal system delivers its verdict on what happened to her father. And she feels something. Not triumph, not satisfaction, but a sense of completion, a sense of closure, a sense that the world has acknowledged what happened to James Thorne and has responded with justice. After sentencing, Isla stands outside the courthouse. Media are everywhere. Journalists want to talk to her. They want her perspective. They want her story. "What does this verdict mean to you?" one journalist asks. "It means my father is not forgotten," Isla responds. "It means that the men responsible for his death are facing consequences. It means that justice, imperfect as it is, has been served. It means that my family can finally begin to heal." Victor appears beside her, and together they face the media. Together they answer questions. Together they present the narrative of transformation and justice that they've been building. One journalist asks Victor a direct question. "Mr. Ashford, you were connected to the victim through your organization. You were the person who employed him. How do you feel about the verdict?" Victor pauses. He considers the question carefully. "I feel like I've been given an opportunity to understand something important." Victor responds, "I was operating a criminal organization that enabled violence and destroyed lives. James Thorne was one victim among many. And yes, his death was a specific consequence of decisions I made and systems I created. I won't shy away from that responsibility. But what this verdict does is acknowledge that responsibility. What this verdict does is create accountability. And what this verdict does is provide his family with the answer they've been seeking for 8 years." Following the guilty verdict, interest in the Thomas Thorne Foundation explodes. Donations pour in. Other families of missing persons reach out for help. The foundation expands rapidly. Isla hires a team of investigators. She hires counselors who specialize in trauma. She hires policy advocates who work with government officials to create new protections for missing persons. She becomes director of the foundation, and she transforms it from a concept into a real force for change. Victor funds the expansion personally. He provides the capital. He provides the resources. He provides the infrastructure. And he watches as Isla builds something that transforms the lives of people who are searching for answers about missing family members. One evening, Isla is working late at the foundation's office when she receives a call. It's a woman whose sister disappeared 5 years ago. The sister was working for a criminal organization at the time, and the family has been searching for answers ever since. Now, through the Foundation's investigation, they found evidence that suggests the sister was trafficked internationally. They've found evidence that suggests the sister might still be alive in Southeast Asia. "We can help you," Isla tells the woman. "We can work with law enforcement and international authorities to find your sister. This is exactly what we're here for." And as she's saying this, Isla realizes that what she and Victor have created is not just about her father anymore. It's about all of the missing people, all of the families searching, all of the stories that need to be told, all of the justice that needs to be served. Victor watches from his office as Isla leads a training session for new investigators. She's transformed. She's not invisible anymore. She's not the quiet maid observing from the background. She's a leader. She's a voice. She's someone who matters. That evening, Victor calls Isla into his office. "I want to do something bigger," Victor says. "I want to do something that changes the structure of how criminal organizations operate in Sydney. I want to go public with information about the operations I've been involved in. I want to cooperate with law enforcement in a way that dismantles some of the criminal infrastructure I've built." Isla is surprised by this statement. "That's going to be dangerous," Isla says. "That's going to make you enemies. That's going to put your life at risk." "I know," Victor responds, "but I think it's necessary. I think if I'm truly committed to transformation, it can't just be about restructuring my own organization. It has to be about broader change. It has to be about dismantling criminal infrastructure that harms people." "Are you asking my permission?" Isla asks. "No," Victor says. "I'm telling you what I'm going to do, but I wanted you to know. I wanted you to understand the scope of the commitment I'm making." Victor makes contact with Detective Rowley. Together, they plan a larger operation, an operation where Victor agrees to provide testimony against other criminal organizations, an operation where Victor agrees to cooperate with law enforcement in a way that puts a target on his back. But he's accepted that. He's accepted that transformation has consequences. He's accepted that doing the right thing sometimes means putting yourself in danger. Over the next 6 months, Detective Rowley works with Victor to build cases against 3 other criminal organizations operating in Sydney. Victor provides testimony about their operations. Victor provides evidence about illegal trafficking, illegal weapons, and illegal drug operations. The investigations result in more than 50 arrests. The investigations result in the dismantling of significant criminal infrastructure. The investigations make Victor a target. But they also make him something else, a man who's genuinely committed to change. There are attempts on Victor's life. There are people who show up at the Foundation wanting revenge for what Victor has exposed. But Sebastian and Victor's security team are ready. They protect Victor. They protect Isla. They create a secure perimeter around everyone involved with the Foundation and Victor's legitimate business operations. But despite the danger, Victor doesn't back down. He doesn't hide. He doesn't retreat to safety. He continues forward, knowing that what he's doing is necessary and right, even though it's dangerous. Isla experiences something unexpected. She experiences fear. She experiences the reality of living in a world where people want to harm the person she cares about. She experiences the weight of knowing that her choice to stay with Victor, her choice to partner with him, might have consequences. But she also experiences something else. She experiences the knowledge that she's changed someone, that her courage in saving Victor from the fire that first night has been repaid 1,000 times over, that Victor has transformed because of their connection, that Victor has become someone better than he was. One evening, as they're preparing for bed in Victor's penthouse apartment, Isla turns to him. "Do you regret it?" she asks. "Do you regret choosing the legal path? Do you regret cooperating with Detective Rowley? Do you regret becoming someone different?" Victor considers the question seriously. "No," he says finally. "I don't regret it. Because yes, it's put me at risk. Yes, it's made me enemies. Yes, it's more difficult than my old life. But it's also more meaningful. It's also more real. It's also allowed me to connect with you in a way I couldn't have if I was still operating in the shadows. So, no, I don't regret it." Isla nods. She understands. She feels the same way. The Thomas Thorne Foundation reaches its 1-year anniversary. A public event is held at the Sydney Opera House. Hundreds of people attend. Families of missing persons attend. Law enforcement officials attend. Government representatives attend. And Isla stands on stage, telling the story of her father, telling the story of her search for answers, telling the story of how that search led to her meeting Victor and discovering that change is possible. At the end of the event, Isla unveils something new, a database. A public database of missing persons cases, a resource for families searching for answers, a resource for investigators trying to solve cold cases, a resource that might help solve cases that have been unsolved for years. Victor watches from the audience, and he's struck by how far Isla has come. From invisible maid to founder and director of a major foundation, from grieving daughter to advocate and leader, from victim of her circumstances to creator of change. The camera captures them walking together down the Opera House steps, with Sydney Harbour in the background. Their hands are linked. Their expressions are calm, but determined. This is what the end of the story looks like. Not a neat resolution, not a simple happy ending, but rather the beginning of a life lived with purpose and meaning. The sun is setting over Sydney as they walk toward the harbour. The city lights are beginning to glow. The sky is turning from blue to orange to deep red. And both of them understand that this journey, from that first night when the mansion was on fire to this moment of public recognition and shared purpose, has changed them both forever. Exactly 1 year after James Thorne's remains were found in the Parramatta River, a memorial service is held. Not a large public event, but something more intimate. Just family, close friends, foundation staff, and a few law enforcement officials who became connected to the case. The location is significant, a quiet spot on the banks of the Parramatta River, far from the warehouse district where James was murdered. Here, the water is clean. Here, the surroundings are peaceful. Here, it feels appropriate to say goodbye to someone who spent 8 years in darkness. Isla stands at the memorial, holding a small urn containing a portion of her father's ashes. She's deciding what to say. She's deciding how to summarize 8 years of searching, of not knowing, of grief that was complicated by the absence of closure. My father was a man who believed in integrity, Isla says, speaking to the gathered crowd. He was a man who stood up when he saw wrongdoing. He was a man who was willing to risk his own safety to do what he believed was right, and that's what got him killed. His integrity got him killed. His willingness to challenge the status quo got him killed. Isla pauses. She's fighting back tears, but she continues. For 8 years, I didn't know that. For 8 years, I believed what everyone told me, that he abandoned our family, that he ran away because he couldn't handle his failures. But that wasn't true. He was murdered. He was silenced. He was disposed of like he was nothing. Isla opens the urn and releases the ashes into the river. They float for a moment on the surface of the water, and then they're carried downstream, carried away, dispersed into the current. But he's not nothing, Isla continues. James Thorne was a real person. He was my father. He was someone's employee. He was someone's friend. He was someone who mattered. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure that people like him, people who go missing, people who disappear, are not forgotten. I'm going to make sure that their families get answers. I'm going to make sure that justice is served, no matter how long it takes. Victor stands beside Isla. He places his hand on her shoulder. And for the gathered witnesses, it's clear that this relationship between Isla and Victor is not what anyone would have expected. They were never supposed to connect. They were never supposed to create something together. But they did. And that creation, the Thomas Thorne Foundation, is going to change lives. After the ceremony, Detective Rowley approaches Victor privately. I wanted to let you know, Detective Rowley says, that we've just cleared 15 cold cases using the database and investigative protocols that Isla's foundation developed. 15 families are finally getting answers about what happened to their missing loved ones. That's because of what you two have built. Victor nods. He understands the significance of this. He understands that his transformation, his decision to cooperate with law enforcement, his commitment to building something legitimate and meaningful, is having a broader impact than just his own organization. There's something else, Detective Rowley continues. We've been tracking one of the criminal organizations you provided testimony about, and we've been able to identify the location where several missing persons might be held. If the intelligence is correct, we can free them. We can bring them home. And none of that would have been possible without you. Victor considers this information. He thinks about the fact that his criminality created problems for many people. He thinks about the fact that his transformation is creating solutions for those same people. He thinks about the long road that still lies ahead. "What do you need from me?" Victor asks. "For now, just stay safe," Detective Rowley responds. "The people you've testified against want you dead. We have security protocols in place, but you need to understand that you've made permanent enemies. You need to understand that your life is going to be different now. You're going to be looking over your shoulder constantly." "I already knew that," Victor says. "I made that choice when I decided to cooperate. I made that choice when I decided to become someone different." If you've made it this far into this video, you've been watching for more than 2 hours. You've been watching the story of a woman who lost her father and spent 8 years searching for the truth. You've been watching the story of a man who killed someone and then faced consequences for that crime. You've been watching the story of another man who committed crimes but found redemption through transformation and cooperation with the justice system. And I want to ask you to do something right now. I want to ask you to like this video, not because I need the like, but because liking this video tells the YouTube algorithm that you found this story meaningful. It tells other people that this story is worth watching. It helps this story reach more people who might be inspired by what Isla and Victor have built. And I want to ask you to comment. I want to ask you to share your thoughts about this story. I want to ask you, did you believe that Victor could change? Did you think Isla made the right choice in staying with him? Do you think justice was actually served? Or do you think the legal system failed in some way? Comment below and let me know what you're thinking. Let me know how this story affected you. Because here's the thing about true crime stories, about stories of transformation, about stories of justice. They don't exist in isolation. They exist as part of a broader conversation we need to have about right and wrong, about redemption and accountability, about the possibility of change. There are real missing persons cases happening right now. There are real families searching for answers right now. There are real situations where justice is delayed or denied. And the work that people like Isla are doing through organizations like the Thomas Thorne Foundation is making a tangible difference in those cases. If you want to learn more about missing persons advocacy, if you want to support organizations that help families find answers, if you want to be part of the movement to create change in how our justice system handles cold cases, there will be links in the description and in the pinned comment that can help you do that. And if you have a missing persons case that you want to bring awareness to, if you have a story that needs to be told, let me know. Comment below. Let me know your story. Because one of the things this video shows is that attention matters, awareness matters. Having your case get public attention can be the difference between answers and endless searching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about this story. Thank you for investing 2 hours into learning about Isla and Victor and James Thorne. But here's what I want to leave you with as this video ends. I want to leave you with questions. I want to leave you with the understanding that this story doesn't have a neat, clean ending. It has an ending where people are growing and changing and building something meaningful, but it also has an ending where questions remain unanswered. The biggest question: is Victor's transformation real, or is it a performance? Is he genuinely committed to change, or is he just trying to rehabilitate his image? The truth is, we don't have a definitive answer to that question. Victor is still living his life. He's still making choices every single day. He's still being tested by circumstances and temptation, and the people who want him dead. His transformation is not a fixed state. It's an ongoing process. It's something that he has to recommit to constantly. Second question: will Isla and Victor's partnership last? They've built something together that's meaningful and real. But they're also two very different people who came together through extraordinary circumstances. Will their connection survive normal life? Will it survive the complications of building a legitimate business together? Will it survive the constant threats to Victor's life? We don't know. Their future is uncertain. Third question: what about the broader criminal organizations in Sydney? Victor has testified against some of them, but he used to be part of that world. He used to be part of that infrastructure. Are there still people inside his former organization who want revenge? Are there still threats that haven't manifested yet? Are there people he worked with for years who view his cooperation with law enforcement as the ultimate betrayal? Fourth question: what about Ryan Brennan? He's in prison now, but he's also still alive. He's serving 25 years, which means in a certain timeline, he could be released. He could potentially be released into a world where Isla is living her life. He could potentially seek revenge. Is Isla constantly looking over her shoulder? Is she constantly afraid that the man who killed her father could one day walk out of prison and come looking for her? And fifth question, what about the families whose cases are still unsolved? What about the missing persons who haven't been found? What about the families who are still searching for answers and still haven't received them? The Thomas Thorne Foundation has helped some families. The database has helped some cases. But there are still missing persons who haven't been found. There are still families who haven't received closure. That work continues. That search continues. And maybe, just maybe, if this video reaches the right person, if it reaches someone who has information about a cold case, if it reaches someone who knows something about a missing persons case, maybe it can help bring some of those missing people home. Let me tell you why this story matters beyond just the facts of what happened. Let me tell you why this story of Isla and Victor and James Thorne is significant beyond just the resolution of one cold case. This story matters because it shows us something important about human nature. It shows us that people are capable of change. Victor Ashford was a criminal operator. He was involved in activities that harmed people. He made decisions that destroyed lives. But when confronted with the reality of what he'd done, when confronted with someone like Isla, whose father was killed as a result of his organization's activities, he chose to change. He chose to cooperate with law enforcement. He chose to build something different. That doesn't erase his past. That doesn't absolve him of responsibility for the harm he caused. But it does show that redemption is possible. It shows that transformation is possible. It shows that people don't have to be defined forever by their worst actions. This story also matters because it shows us the importance of not giving up. Isla didn't give up on finding answers about her father. She searched for 8 years. She hired investigators. She risked her own safety. She stayed connected to Victor even when it would have been easier and safer to walk away. And her persistence paid off. Her refusal to accept the narrative that her father abandoned his family meant that the truth eventually came out. It meant that her father was recognized as a victim. It meant that the people responsible faced consequences. How many other missing persons cases are out there right now? How many other families have given up because they didn't have the resources or the knowledge or the determination to keep searching? How many other families could find answers if they had the same level of support that Isla had? That's a question worth thinking about. This story also matters because it raises questions about our justice system. It shows us that justice is not always quick. It shows us that justice requires cooperation from people who've committed crimes. It shows us that perfect justice is often impossible, and we have to accept compromises and imperfect solutions. Ryan Brennan testified against Peter Westbrook in exchange for a reduced sentence. Is that justice? Is that fairness? Or is it just a practical solution to the problem of how to prosecute crimes in a system that relies on witness testimony? These are questions that don't have easy answers. These are questions that reasonable people can disagree about. But here's what I think is clear. The pursuit of truth matters. The search for justice matters. The refusal to accept easy narratives or convenient explanations matters. Isla's search for the truth about her father, even though that search was painful and difficult and brought her into contact with dangerous people, resulted in justice. It resulted in closure for her family. It resulted in the deaths of criminals being officially acknowledged and addressed by the legal system. And that matters. As I'm wrapping up this video, I want to leave you with one final thought. There are missing persons cases happening right now. There are families searching for answers right now. There are cold cases that could potentially be solved if the right information came to light, if the right person watched the right documentary or saw the right social media post or heard the right story. If you know something about a missing persons case, if you have information that could help solve a cold case, if you're aware of someone who might be connected to a missing person's disappearance, please reach out to law enforcement. Please reach out to organizations like the Thomas Thorne Foundation. Please reach out and share what you know. Because here's what this entire story shows. Answers are possible. Justice is possible. Closure is possible. But only if people are willing to speak up, to cooperate, to do the difficult work of searching for truth, even when it's complicated and difficult and dangerous. Isla's father deserved to be remembered as a victim, not forgotten as someone who abandoned his family. And because Isla refused to give up, because she searched for truth, because she took risks and made difficult choices, her father was finally recognized for what he was, a man who was murdered, a man who was a victim, a man who deserved justice. And that's why this story matters. That's why I wanted to tell it. That's why I hope it reaches people who might be searching for their own answers about their own missing loved ones. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about this story. And if you're searching for answers about someone you love, please know that you're not alone. Please know that justice and closure are possible. Please know that people like Isla exist in the world, and they're working to help families find the answers they deserve. The Thomas Thorne Foundation is real. The work is real. The commitment to finding missing persons and providing justice for families is real. And if this story has inspired you, or moved you, or made you think differently about justice and redemption and human transformation, I ask you one more time, please like this video, please comment, please share it with someone you know. Because awareness creates change, attention creates possibility, and every single person who becomes aware of the reality of missing persons cases, every single person who becomes committed to supporting organizations that work on cold cases, every single person who refuses to give up on finding truth and justice, that person matters. You matter. Your attention to this story matters. Your willingness to care about people you don't know, about families who are searching, about the pursuit of justice, even when it's complicated and difficult, that matters. Thank you.